Welcome to the Washington Week Extra. I'm Yamiche Alcindor. Tonight, we begin by continuing our conversation about the January 6th committee hearings. On Thursday night, lawmakers played audio of former top Trump advisor Steve Bannon. That's right, the same Steve Bannon that was convicted of not complying with a congressional subpoena. That's Steve Bannon. Talking on October 31st, 2020, days before Election Day, about how Trump would declare he won the election even if votes were still being counted. So here's Steve Bannon talking in October 2021, or 2020 rather, talking about stealing the election, essentially.
And what Trump's going to do is just declare victory. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted mail. And so they're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to declare himself a winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm. Also, if Trump is losing by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be even crazier. No, because he's going to sit right there and say they stole it. If Biden's winning, Trump is going to do some crazy shit.
You heard that right. He said Trump is going to declare that he's winning even if votes are still being counted. So joining me to discuss this and more, Hawley Jackson, senior Washington correspondent for NBC News and anchor on NBC News Now. And here in studio, Dan Balls, chief correspondent for The Washington Post, and our friend Nicole Killian, congressional correspondent for CBS News. So thank you all for being here. Hawley, I want to start with you because I had to almost listen to that sound a couple times, and then I had to literally ask my producer, what's the date on that audio? Talk to me about your reaction as someone who obviously has covered Trump extensively and, of course, is still covering Trump world.
Had to chase down Steve Bannon a few times in my day. You know what I mean? I mean, listen, here's the thing. He turned out to be right? I mean, Steve Bannon knew what he was talking about at the moment because things happened. And Donald Trump did say that he won the election, even when the evidence came back and showed that there was obviously no widespread fraud and that he had, in fact, lost. Bannon is such an interesting, important, and controversial character in the bigger drama of Trump world, right? And I don't want to frame it like a drama because this is serious stuff about the democratic principles of which our country is founded. But I will say that, Bannon likes the show of this. He is open about that. He talks about that. He wants the optics of showing up every single day during his trial, right, while the deliberations are happening, before the jury coming out every day and speaking to the microphones and talking to the cameras and talking with reporters about what he sees as he's described. You see it here, the January 6th, quote unquote, show trial, as he calls it, going after Chairman Benny Thompson, going after others who are involved with this. He wants the spotlight. He talks about it on his, podcast on War Room that he has. He is somebody who likes the spotlight here. And the question for I think Bannon here is not just the criminal exposure, because there obviously, is going to be some. This is a conviction. He's saying he's going to fight it. I think there's a real question from legal experts of on what grounds you did not present a defense, right? So how does an appeal work on that front? That's a big question mark that remains. But also for the way that sort of he fits into the bigger puzzle pieces as it relates to the 2024 potential campaign that Donald Trump seems very likely to pursue.
And Dan, I want to come to you. What do you make of the fact that sort of Steve Bannon was saying this in October 2020? This is exactly what Trump's going to do. He's going to declare victory. Democrats are going to be scrambling, but who cares? That's what he's going to do. Put that in context when you think about sort of what we know now about what happened, but also sort of the history of this town. You've been in Washington covering politics a long time, and here's someone saying, okay, there's raw politics, and then there's just simply lying about the politics and planning it ahead of time.
This was a script that was being written by a number of people ahead of the election, including President Trump. I mean, we know that President Trump, before the election, basically said the only way I could lose is if it's stolen. Bannon is saying if he is trailing, he's going to declare victory, and if worse comes to worse, it's going to go crazy. We also know that Rudy Giuliani was telling him on election night, go out and say you won. And so this was not an accident, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This was part of a prepared script that they were willing to lay out in advance and then follow. And I think what we've seen since is, those fabulous outtakes that were shown last night where he said, I don't want to say the election's over. He still can't say, he won't say that the election's over. And I think that has carried through from the early fall of 2020 right where we are today. So we've got these hearings that are going on that are revealing information. We've got the DOJ doing what it's doing. We've got the Fulton County prosecution underway, and we have the central figure preparing to run again for president of the United States. We've never gotten out of this box.
We have certainly never gotten out of this box. We are bouncing in this box, Dan. And you talked about sort of the hearing revealing new information. One of the other things that we saw and that we really weren't expecting on Thursday evening was laughter, actual laughter. But that's what was heard after the committee called out Republican Senator Josh Hawley with never before seen video of him fleeing the mob he had helped inflame. So there was video of Josh Hawley literally running through the Capitol trying to get away from Trump supporters. Nicole, I want to come to you. What do you make of the lawmakers making the decision, first of all, to put Josh Hawley in the hearing in this way? And also, I wonder what it tells you about sort of what lawmakers want to accomplish.
Well, I think throughout this process, the committee has put some of their Republican colleagues on blast, I guess, to use a more colloquial phrase.
I love the word on blast. And petty.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they also just want to show some of the contradiction, right? Yeah. And so, you saw that one image of Josh Hawley holding up his fist to the crowd, moments before they stormed in, and then you see him running because he doesn't want to get attacked. So, I mean, you can't have it both ways, I think is kind of the point that the committee has tried to make over and over again with respect to some of these Republican members. And this is something that has continued even into today because Josh Hawley, kind of tried to make light.
There we go with the video again. Just like,
he tried to make light of the situation, right, by, tweeting this, like now he's fundraising off of it. He's got this coffee mug, show me strong with a picture of him holding up his fist and, a little emoji attached to that tweet. But then you have one member of the Select Committee, Adam Kinzinger, who kind of trolled him and then posted that running shot. So, this might continue to play out even until next week when lawmakers return on the Hill. One thing I thought was interesting is that late today, Josh Hawley did speak to Fox and said that he doesn't regret anything in terms of, that day, and that he, referred to the committee as a clown car. So certainly no apologies from Josh Hawley, even after showing that video.
Nicole, I just have to point out that you used the word trolled, on blast, and clown car in your answer to Josh Hawley and what we were saying. It's exactly what we wanted for you from that answer because it was entertaining, but it was also sort of you're laughing at your own house burning down because it is also this sort of serious subject of like democracy being in crisis and this happening. So thank you for that. I also want to, of course, turn to the other big story that I and a lot of the people, the team here at Washington Week have been just sort of obsessed about, and that is the mystery of the missing Secret Service text messages from January 5th and January 6th, and the new turn that they took this week. On Wednesday, it was revealed that after lawmakers subpoenaed Secret Service communications from the 2 days, the agency submitted one single text message. That's right, just one single text message. And on Thursday, we learned the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General's probe into the lost text messages had been elevated to a criminal investigation. So I really want to come to you here, Hawley. Talk a bit about sort of your reaction, what you're hearing from your sources about the fact that the Secret Service can't find any text messages, or at least not more than one text message from the 2 days where our nation was focused on safety and security.
It's a great question. Can I just say first, though, Nicole Killian wins my bingo card for Washington Week Extra. So thank you, Nicole, for that. I appreciate it. As it relates to the text messages, here's the thing. I hear from lawmakers when I talk to them, obviously deep frustration over what happened with these Secret Service text messages because, this is something that they had wanted to see. Like, right, the members of the January 6th committee, and they talked publicly about this. This was something that they subpoenaed, not for fun, because it mattered and because they wanted to see what was going down, right, on the 5th and the 6th. This takes on, obviously, some new resonance after the testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson regarding just how heated things got. Testimony that, as Nicole and Dan have alluded to, we heard a little bit more about last night as they put some corroborating witnesses out there to back up the idea that this was this either altercation or heated discussion, whatever you want to call it. As far as the rest of it goes, right, where does this go moving forward? As you said, this is now a criminal investigation. Looking at this let's say you're looking at this charitably, right? At the least, this was an issue of the Secret Service migrating these text messages or migrating these devices to a new system and failing to comply, right, with the Federal Records Act, with the law of archiving these messages. It's our reporting that obviously it was on the shoulders and the heads of the individual agents and individual employees and staffers to preserve what they thought were going to be critical if this migration had happened, right? That's sort of it feels like that's a charitable view. The other piece of it is where I think you're seeing some concern, especially on the part of Democrats here, which is, was this actually something more? Was this malicious intent, if you will, and done in a way, even after they had gotten some email reminders, at least one, before the migration happened, to save things related to January 6th, how that factored in. I would also just say bigger picture, the politicization of the Secret Service and this question mark. I'm not saying that that's happened, but I'm saying the question mark and that sort of shadow now that I think is placed over the Secret Service. Our colleague, Yamiche, Chuck Todd, said this in our coverage last night. Like, the Secret Service has not had an awesome decade, as it relates to some of the scandals that have come up. I mean, dating back to the Obama years. So this is another tough moment for that agency.
Yeah, and Dan, last question to you in the 30 seconds we have left here. What do you make of this story, given sort of the legacy of the Secret Service? They've had a real tough decade, as Hawley put it.
They've had a very, very tough decade, and my colleague Carol Leonnig has reported on this for most of that decade, of all of the scandals that they've had, and for this to come on top of that, I think is a terrible blow to the Secret Service, frankly, as an institution. And the idea that there is now a criminal investigation, that this has been elevated to that level, it tells you that there is inside the institution at Homeland Security some concern that the initial story that was put out may not be the right story. I mean, Hawley's right. We don't know whether this was, accidental or malicious. But the fact that they returned only one tweet raises the question of what are they really trying to hide something, and what is actually going on?
Certainly a story that we're going to have to continue to follow. We'll have to leave it there tonight. Thank you so much to Hawley, to Dan, to Nicole for joining us and for sharing your reporting. I'm Yamiche Alcindor. Good night from Washington.